Hi, Robert Cerfolio from New York City. Welcome to my office. Today we're going to talk a little bit about using metrics and data to get better. In general, we need to measure things that matter. And if we're measuring things that don't matter, then you're not going to engage or inspire anyone to get better. Number two is the data you present people to get better needs to be accurate. So as a leader in an organization with surgeons, if you're presenting surgeons data that's wrong, you're going to lose their heart and soul for years. It's almost not recoverable. One and two, if you're measuring things that are silly, it's also not recoverable. In my book, Super Performing at Work and Home, I talk a little bit about this, but in page 11, one of the earlier chapters, we talk about that each Christmas holiday, my team looks back at our operative log and our results and review them. We take pride in what we did well, but more importantly, we look at what we did poorly. We lament our failures, and failures in surgeries are not just losses on a playing field or a financial spreadsheet. They represent patients not doing well, either having morbidity or mortality. So I get a lot of questions from many of you that I coach, and I thought today I would show you my operative log. Of course, for HIPAA reasons, we have to protect our patients, so I'm not going to show you too much of their demographics, but I'll show you what I do at the end of each day. So at the end of each day, I record the operation we did. If it's an S1, what lobe it's in. Here's an S1, S2, right upper lobe, how we did it robotically. We use an SP, an XI, a DV5, etc. We don't get the pathology back initially, so that's blank. We look at our length of stay. Many of you really, some of you don't believe we send everybody home in a day. We'll take a look. We don't. There's a few twos there. There's someone went home the same day. There's some twos. Don't worry, they're coming. There's a two. And that was just a lobectomy. That was a patient who refused to go home but also had social issues. But in general, you can see almost everybody goes home in a day. The other things we record is their TNM and their pathology after we get it. And we look at the lymph nodes. This is a common question we get. Remember, objective metric to look at is you got to get 5N2 and 2N1s. We can argue about all day long if it's overkill for a GGO. Should you just get, 3N2s and 1N1? When we got here, we mandated this. This is a quality metric. If you as a surgeon can't take 5N2 lymph nodes and can't find them, you shouldn't be operating. And you should be getting the N1 nodes and not asking the pathologist to do it. That's in your purview. That represents your outcomes. So send them separately, and if you can't do it during the operation room, put the lobe or the segment of the back table and take a few and mark them. Don't say the pathologist didn't find them. That's on you. You label them. So take a look at our lymph node count here, and I'll just go through it. Here's 38, 21, 34, 57. That must have been a patient who had chemo and immuno. Yes, it was. 43, 39, 22, etc. So this is how we do this. Then lymphovascular invasion. Was it an R0 resection? Did they have a previous history of cancer? Then some demographics about their height and weight, all of their past medical history. Did they get chemo or immuno? We've now done over 200 patients who've had chemo and immunotherapy with no 30-day mortality and only one conversion. What operation did we do? Were they on Plavix? And then most importantly, our times. Again, you have to have high quality surgery, but if you're spending 5 hours doing a robotic lobectomy, it's not high quality for anybody. So efficiency quality index, you have to measure quality and efficiency. And efficiency is operative times in the OR to incision, closure of the incision to out of the OR, length of stay, etc. So here are all of our times. And all these numbers should be under 2 minutes. 2 hours. So let's take a look. Here's one isn't. What was that? Looks like it was a difficult sleeve. Here's one 2:03. So we're not always successful, but we try. Here's one 3 hours. This was, that was a complicated chest wall resection and reconstruction. We try to keep all of our lobes and segments under 2 hours. And then we measure the time between closure and exit should be under 16 minutes. And by the way, in the room, to incision time should be under 20 minutes or 22 minutes. We measure these, and if we can't do it, we report it. What about our air leaks at the time of closure? We're trying to get all of our chest tubes out. So we measure the air leak at the time of closure, the air leak once they're spontaneously breathing, and we try to remove the tube. Did we get the tube out? Well, let me show you our final results here in study phase 2 of our study. If you look, we now have 342 patients that are in the study, 139 in phase 2. Since we iterated removing the tube, as I've shown you, we now remove the tube after they're extubated in the operating room and turned on their side. And here are our results. If you have a lobe, we've had 146 patients get a lobe. 80 of them had their chest tubes removed with no failures now with the new technique. 81 out of 147. Segments, we've had 121 patients get a segment. 78 out of the 121 had their chest tubes removed in the operating room. They left the OR with no chest tubes, no failures, no one had their tube put back. And wedges are 28 out of 40 because the wedges we do are complex and usually multiple. You would think that would be higher. I'm disappointed with that, but that's the data. Data doesn't lie, ball don't lie, video don't lie. So watch your videos because at the end of the day, you can find all your mistakes on the videos, just like any other athletic event. This shows us how long the chest tube is in. Here's our blood loss. This number should always be under 30, and here it is, a failure. The last case was 40. It is what it is. These are not estimated, but measures. But look at the blood loss. Almost all those numbers are under 20 or 30 or 40 like they're supposed to be. What about people want to know how I know my volume? Well, it's real easy to know your volume when you record it every day. So I've done 19,378 operations. I've done 3,049 robotic operations. This is my SPs and DV5 cases. I know I've done 1,192 robotic lobectomies, and I finished 1,150 of them robotically without conversion. Remember, we had 12 conversions in our first 50. Embarrassing, but true. Segments, done 612, completed 610 out of that. Same thing with thymuses, first ribs. Then if they smoked, their gender, their ethnicity, other demographics, their PFTs, their clinical stage. This was an epithelial meso, but most people are lungs. Their clinical stage, the size of the tumor, the location of their tumor, their max SUV, their staging. We used to do MEADS, we don't. Here's the EBUS. Their repeat staging if they got immunochemotherapy like this patient, and then if they left the ORs without chest tube. So what's it about? It's about measuring things that matter. These are operative metrics. Of course, we follow them post-op. What's their readmission rate? What's their morbidity and mortality? What are your teaching scores from the residents? What are your citizenship scores from the nurses on the floor in the OR? These are the things we measure to be a better surgeon. But what I want to inspire you to do is measure how to be better at home. How many times do you take your significant other out to dinner? How many of your children's events do you miss? I record those. I tried to go to every game, then I just ended up coaching 54 Little League teams and just going to all the games because I was the coach, because I wasn't going to miss them. How many birthday parties do you miss for people in your family? How often do you see your mom? My mom's 95. I'm going to see her this weekend. She's not going to be happy about it, but she's coming to upstate New York. Measure things that matter. Your roles at home are much more important than this. If you're not successful at home, it doesn't matter if you're great at work, but you got to find a way to do both. It's all based on data, objective metrics, you recording them, honestly, reviewing them, and trying to get better in all the roles the good Lord gives you. I know you can do it. Thank you, Robert Cerfolio.